There are huge subsidies going into our current economy. So we have to change the systems so that we do produce things in the way that is sustainable, and then we deploy the subsidies so that people who need them can afford them.
What message do you have for businesses that may believe that sustainability is not financially viable?
I would ask, what's the business case for your business in a world where huge swathes of population can't live where they're living, huge parts of our arable land are not arable anymore, basic ecosystem services such as pollination are breaking down. Before you even reach those, you'll have societal disruption. So what does a business look like where societies are not working? I would ask, did COVID affect your business? Well, let's look at the data that's telling us that the impacts of climate change and the societal disruption that goes with it is going to be even greater than that. I was just looking at data on heat stress, which has been in the news recently. Obviously, I have a colleague based in India, and he's telling me about how they have to stay inside in the air conditioning. As many people as went off work during COVID, half as many as that are already missing work due to heat stress. And that's before we get to 1.5 degrees of climate change. So I would ask people to think about COVID and think about it multiplied. And I would finally say, does your business have insurance? They probably would say yes. And then I'd say, how will you operate when you get to the point where there are many things for which your business cannot get insurance? And that's not science fiction. Insurance companies are really thinking about what happens when things are not insurable anymore.
What is the biggest change a business can make to become more sustainable?
The businesses are all over the shop. We've got some real leaders and we've got some real laggards. So it's hard to say one thing, but the one thing that I think is common across all of them, they all need, is to understand their role and their responsibility in driving change and their ambition. And I would say that amounts to a few different things. One is to just say, we're doing better than we did last year. But that's not enough. Is it actually what society needs? Is it actually what the planet needs? If it's not enough, it's still not good enough. Another is not to say we're doing better than other people in our sector. Again, that's not enough. We can still go to hell in a handcart, to use a phrase, if we're doing it that way. But another really important one is to say business has a role and a responsibility to be part of a bigger change. So I wouldn't just say change your own business to look after yourself. I'd say we're on a huge socio-economic transition here. And it's about how business teams up with others, how they work. We call it system change. Changing everything from the narratives that underlie the surface to the specific actions. Think about how you're part of a bigger process of change. Some businesses have done that, but if the leaders at the top are not really signed up to being part of the future, I don't think all these ESG targets and sustainability things on the website, or even just dealing with your emissions, at least in your scope 1, 2, I don't think that's going to be enough. You have to have that vision at the top.
How can we ensure that sustainable changes are inclusive for everyone?
I think that's the key question that we are beginning to realize has not been addressed yet. Change is coming, and is it going to be a just transition? There's two reasons why we have to focus on, is it going to be just? One is really practical. You might be an immoral or amoral person, but to be honest, any change we have, it's not going to last, it's not going to be sustainable, it's going to be challenged socially or politically if it doesn't work for people. We've already seen that in all kinds of examples where people protest at what are relatively small changes compared to what we need. So to be practical, it's got to be socially inclusive and fair. There's also the moral argument that this is our chance to change how we run the economy, to solve these twin evils of biosphere breakdown and gross inequality. Due to COVID, for the first time in many, many years, poverty is actually going back up. Inequality is incredibly deep. We need to address that at the same time we restructure our economy. We can do both now. But, and I've got one big but here, it is interesting that just transition is coming on the agenda, and I'm seeing more discussions about it, but it tends to be talked about in terms of these are the costs and these are the benefits. These are the financial costs, who's going to pay like the tax for them or pay for premium products. And these are the benefits, the new jobs, who's going to get the jobs. Of course, those are important, but it's not enough. Just talking about the financial costs and the jobs is not a just transition. A just transition is where people can decide for themselves what their future locality looks like, which pathway they want, how land will be used differently, what kind of training and skills, and what the new workforce looks like. So it's about people's decisions and voice. It's not just about, you know, who gets retrained in AI.
As the price of living continues to rise, do you believe sustainably sourced and produced products are affordable enough?
No, they're clearly not. You know, I'm someone on a professional salary who can afford to be picky with what I buy. And I look at the price premium and I think, gulp, do I really want to pay that? Of course, they're not affordable for, you know, friends and family members who are on, you know, benefits or whatever. I know that. But I think that's used a bit too much as a, oh, we can't do this because it couldn't work for the masses. If we look at the subsidies that we put in to the fossil fuel industry, to conventional agriculture, to all kinds of public infrastructure that enables our economy to work as it is, whether that's roads or garbage or water, there are huge subsidies going into our current economy. So we have to change the systems so that we do produce things in the way that is sustainable, and then we deploy the subsidies so that people who need them can afford them. We just have to shift several billions so that we can do both, produce what we need sustainably and make sure people can afford it.